Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on Jennette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Ooh.
And I know right off the bat that title is
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It's intense.
It's intense, yeah.
Definitely.
So, but we're not here to
Yeah.
pass judgment. We just want to really understand
Right.
Jennette's perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, memoirs are all about getting that raw, unfiltered look into somebody's life. And,
Yeah.
we may not agree with every single thing, but it's a chance to really walk in somebody else's shoes and gain empathy for, what they went through.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
So throughout the book, Jennette kind of paints this picture of childhood under this held breath, this constant fear of her mom's cancer coming back.
It's this anxiety that really underpins her whole childhood.
Mm.
I mean, just imagine being like a toddler, and watching home videos of your mom battling cancer.
Yeah.
That's Jennette's earliest memory. And even then, as a tiny kid, she felt this pressure to react the right way, to somehow ease her mom's anxieties.
Oh, wow. So being the adult in the situation.
Oh, yeah, talk about parentification, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Being forced to be the caregiver, even as a child.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you've got the financial strain that she calls the curse of minimum wage.
Right.
Where even with everybody working, they're still just scraping by.
Absolutely. And that kind of stress, it impacts every part of family life.
Oh, for sure.
It creates this constant tension that's always there.
Yeah, and then you layer in the physical environment, too.
Yes.
She talks about their house being so cluttered and chaotic.
Yeah, almost like it's a physical manifestation of your mom's anxiety.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And that story about the broken garage door.
Oh, my God.
It was like a slapstick comedy routine every time they needed groceries.
I know.
Two people wrestling this giant door just to get out of the garage.
It's such a vivid image, and I think it really captures that contrast between the chaos that's going on around her and her own internal desire for order and peace.
Right.
Which is probably why she found so much comfort in going to church, right?
Yeah.
That predictability was her escape.
Definitely. And it's so interesting how even something as small as spilled milk becomes this huge ordeal,
right?
Delaying them getting to church. And it just reveals how tightly wound her mom was.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like Jennette was always walking on eggshells.
Always trying not to upset that delicate balance.
Exactly. And that need for control, for predictability, that really becomes a driving force for her, especially as she's thrust into this world of acting.
Yes. And it's her mom who's really steering the ship the whole time.
Oh, totally.
It's clear that it's not just about Jennette's talent. It's about her mom's dreams for her.
Right.
It's a way to escape that curse.
Right.
And achieve a better life.
Yeah, it's Jennette becomes her ticket to this world of glitz and glamour.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can just see it in her mom's excitement when Jennette lands her first acting gig.
Oh, for sure.
It quickly spirals into this obsession.
He does.
Oh, and speaking of obsession, Jennette's special skill, her ability to cry on cue, is kind of disturbing.
Yeah, it is.
She learned to tap into these deep wells of sadness, even imagining her brothers dying just to nail these auditions.
It really shows how the entertainment industry can be so manipulative, especially towards kids. They're teaching them to weaponize their emotions for professional gain.
Right. And what does that do to a kid's emotional development in the long run?
Right. What happens when you constantly blur the lines between real emotions and performance?
Yeah, it's she internalizes this message that her value comes from her ability to perform, right, to please others, and in a way that kind of mirrors her dynamic with her mom.
Absolutely. This constant pressure to perform to meet her mom's expectations just fuels her anxiety.
Yeah, and where does she find comfort?
Right.
In religion.
Yeah.
In rituals and routines.
It's like she's trying to impose order on this world that feels so chaotic and unpredictable.
Yeah, she's craving control wherever she can find it.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings us to body image.
Oh, yes.
Which adds another whole layer of complexity to their relationship.
Oh, for sure. From the handsome dress incident to the calorie counting and weigh-ins. Her body becomes another thing her mom tries to control.
And that moment at the doctor's office when anorexia is mentioned and her mom just brushes it off.
It's a huge red flag.
It's terrifying.
It shows how control and denial can really distort a parent's perception.
Right.
They get so fixated on this ideal that they lose sight of their child's well-being.
And this unhealthy dynamic just keeps playing out even as Jennette achieves mainstream success with iCarly.
Right, you'd think getting this huge role would bring some stability, some happiness.
Yeah.
But it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah, so let's dig into that in the next part of our deep dive. Because even with fame and fortune, the effects of her mom's control and her childhood trauma still shape Jennette's experiences and choices.
It really is a fascinating look at the price of fame and the hidden struggles behind seemingly perfect lives.
It is for sure,
Yeah.
so stay tuned. So we're back and diving deeper into those iCarly years.
Yeah.
And, you think this huge success would be like a dream come true, but it kind of turns into this double-edged sword for Jennette.
Right, because while the world is seeing Sam Puckett, this confident, sassy character,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, Jennette is struggling.
Yeah.
The wardrobe choices for the show make her feel sexualized, and even like on-screen kissing becomes this big source of anxiety for her.
It's like she's leading this double life.
Yeah.
And it's made worse by her mom constantly being on set. It's her mom sees iCarly as an extension of her own ambitions, another chance to control things.
And that's a really important point because the entertainment industry can be so exploitative.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for young actors. Yeah. They're often treated like commodities, and their own voices, their creative desires, they're just dismissed.
Which brings us to Jennette wanting to direct.
Right.
She's given this opportunity to get behind the camera and express her own vision, but then it's just taken away.
It's devastating.
It is.
And I think it says a lot about the power dynamics at play.
Oh, for sure.
Here she is the star of the show.
Yeah.
And she's still being controlled.
Yeah.
Her creative ambitions are stifled.
Totally. And this feeling of being trapped.
Right.
Of being defined by Sam Puckett.
Yeah.
It just gets more intense as the show goes on. Even her friendship with Miranda Cosgrove, who plays Carly, gets all tangled up in this web of control.
It's so interesting how their moms tried to manage their interactions,
Yeah.
Almost orchestrate their friendship.
It's wild.
And yet somehow Jennette and Miranda managed to find ways to connect.
Right.
To build a real bond in this totally manufactured world.
It's amazing.
It really shows how resilient they are.
Yeah.
You know how they found those moments of genuine connection amidst all the chaos?
It really is, but even their friendship is kind of overshadowed by her mom's declining health.
Right.
The Sam and Cat tour becomes this emotional roller coaster for Jennette. It's like this taste of freedom mixed with guilt and worry. And it's during this time that her relationship with food takes a really dark turn.
Right. She starts binging and purging.
Yeah.
It's like her body, after years of restriction and control, is finally rebelling.
Yeah. It's like a classic example of how trauma can manifest physically.
Exactly.
When everything else feels out of control, the body becomes this site of control, of rebellion, even if it's self-destructive.
Exactly.
And then comes the turning point of the whole book, her mom's death.
Right. And it's not just about grief.
No.
It's about untangling all these complicated emotions.
Yeah.
And realizing that her relationship with her mom was really unhealthy.
It's like this slow and painful process of deconstructing the image she had of her mom. She starts to see the manipulation, the control, the ways her mom's needs always came before her own.
It's a heartbreaking realization, but it's also incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
It's like the first step towards reclaiming her own story, her own sense of self.
And that realization kind of sets her on this new path.
Yeah.
A journey of healing and self-discovery that plays out in the aftermath of iCarly.
But it's not a straightforward path.
No, it's not.
She struggles with bulimia, with unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
With this deep need for control that seems to affect every part of her life.
It's a good reminder that healing isn't linear.
It's messy.
It is.
It's full of setbacks.
Yeah.
And it requires constant work and self-compassion.
Yeah. And during this time, she starts going to therapy.
Right.
Which at first seems to offer some hope. But even therapy becomes this, battleground for control.
I know.
Remember how she approaches it with this need to perform?
Yeah.
Be the perfect patient?
It's fascinating how those ingrained patterns of behavior can show up in unexpected ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes time and effort to unlearn those coping mechanisms.
Right.
To really surrender to the healing process.
Exactly. And eventually she does surrender, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
It's with her new therapist, Jeff, that she really starts to confront her eating disorder head on.
And his approach seems to really resonate with her.
Yeah, focusing on normalizing her eating habits.
Yeah.
and identifying trigger foods.
It's practical
Yeah.
and empowering.
It helps her regain control over her body and her relationship with food.
Yeah, but it's not a quick fix.
No.
She still deals with cravings, with the urge to purge,
Right.
with those ingrained patterns of control.
But now she has the tools and the support to deal with it.
Yeah.
She's not fighting this battle alone
And
anymore.
that strength, that self-awareness, it extends beyond her eating disorder. She makes this huge decision to turn down the iCarly reboot.
Right.
Which is huge.
It would have been so easy to go back,
Yeah.
to give in to the nostalgia,
Yeah.
the excitement of playing that role again.
The money?
The money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she knows that it would mean going back to a world that caused her so much pain.
It's a powerful statement.
It is.
She's choosing authenticity over nostalgia, personal growth over, professional gain.
It's a bold move.
It is.
And it shows how committed she is to her own healing.
Right.
To defining her own future.
Yeah, to stepping out of the shadow of her past.
And in the midst of all this, there's this really touching scene where she visits her mom's grave.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this moment of reckoning, of facing the complicated nature of grief.
Yeah.
And the impact her mom still has on her.
She wrestles with this romanticized image of her mom.
Yeah, the one on the headstone.
Yeah.
And her own conflicting emotions.
It's raw. It's honest.
It's incredibly moving.
It really is. And in the end, she comes to this powerful realization, acknowledging the pain and the damage her mom caused.
It's a testament to her courage and honesty.
Yeah, both with herself and with the reader.
It's a powerful example of how acknowledging the truth, even when it's hard, can help you heal and grow.
So as we wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, we see Jennette at a crossroads.
Yeah.
She's made incredible progress, but her journey's far from over.
She's still dealing with the ghosts of her past.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out who she is and what she wants.
And in part 3, we'll explore how she navigates these challenges.
Right.
How she keeps reclaiming her story and building a life that feels authentic and true to herself.
Yeah, we'll talk about her changing relationship with food and her body image, her decision to embrace her creative voice, and her journey towards finding peace and fulfillment.
It's a powerful journey for sure.
It is.
So stay tuned. And we are back for the final part of our deep dive into Jennette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Yeah, and as we saw in part 2, Jennette's healing process is, it's not a straight line.
It's a winding road.
It's full of ups and downs. And it's a good reminder that there are no quick fixes when it comes to unpacking years of trauma and trying to rebuild your sense of self.
Right.
It's about taking it one step at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah, and in this last part, we'll explore how Jennette navigates those steps. You know, how she continues to reclaim her story and create a life that truly feels like her own.
And one of the most striking things in this last part of her journey is her relationship with food and her body image.
Yeah.
She finally confronts her eating disorder head on with the help of her therapist, Jeff. And his approach just seems to really connect with her in a way that other therapies haven't.
It's like she finally finds a space where she can be vulnerable.
Right.
Where she can let go of that need to perform and just be herself.
And that authenticity is what allows her to really make progress.
For sure. And Jeff's focus on normalizing her eating habits.
Yeah.
Identifying trigger foods and developing coping mechanisms.
It gives her a sense of control that's actually healthy.
Right.
It's empowering.
It's not about restriction and punishment anymore.
Exactly.
It's about learning to nourish her body and listen to what it needs. It's inspiring to see her embrace this new approach.
Yeah.
To prioritize her well-being in a way that she never could before, but
it's still not easy.
No, it's not.
There are still challenges.
Right. She still has cravings and urges to fall back into old patterns.
Yeah, healing isn't linear.
No.
There are going to be setbacks, moments of doubt and struggle.
But she has the tools and the support system to work through it now.
Exactly. She's not fighting this battle alone anymore.
And that strength, that self-awareness, it goes beyond her eating disorder.
Right.
She makes that decision to turn down the iCarly reboot.
Which is huge.
Which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been easy to go back,
The nostalgia.
Yeah, the nostalgia, the money.
The money.
Yeah. But she recognizes that it would also mean going back to a world that caused her so much pain.
It's a powerful statement.
It really is.
It's like she's saying, I'm not defined by my past or by what other people expect of me.
She's choosing healing and authenticity.
Yeah, even if it means walking away from a big opportunity.
And it seems like this decision kind of opens up new creative paths for her.
It does.
She starts writing and directing,
Yeah.
expressing herself in ways that feel genuine.
There's this one part where she describes the joy of writing, of creating stories that are completely her own.
It's beautiful.
It's like she's finally free to be the artist she always wanted to be.
Without her mom's ambitions hanging over her.
Yeah, without the pressure of the industry.
It's powerful, you know?
Yeah.
It shows how resilient we can be.
Yeah.
How we can find light and meaning even in the darkest times.
And it shows how important it is to follow our own path.
Exactly, even when it's different from what people expect.
And speaking of unexpected paths, there's that scene where she visits her mom's grave.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a powerful moment.
It's this reckoning.
Yeah.
Where she grapples with the complexity of grief.
Right, and the lasting impact of their relationship.
She sees that idealized image of her mom on the headstone.
Yeah.
And she recognizes that it doesn't match her own experience.
It's a really honest moment.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging the pain, the damage, but there's also a sense of forgiveness there.
Right.
Not for her mom, but for herself.
Yeah, she's letting go of the guilt, the self-blame.
That need to reconcile the image of a loving mother with the reality of what she went through.
It's so important for her healing.
It is.
It's about releasing the burden of the past.
Yeah.
And making space for peace and acceptance.
And it reminds us that forgiveness is often more about us than the person who hurt us.
Exactly.
As the memoir ends, we see Jennette embracing her freedom, her voice. She's pursuing her passions. She's setting boundaries.
Yeah.
She's surrounding herself with people who support her.
It's really a testament to the power of therapy, of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Of having the courage to face hard truths.
Yeah.
And choose a different path.
So what can we take away from Jennette McCurdy's story?
I think it's a reminder that healing is possible, even from the deepest wounds. It's about recognizing that we're not defined by our pasts.
Right.
That we have the power to choose differently.
To create lives that align with our values.
Exactly.
It's also a reminder to be kind to ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Jennette's journey is full of ups and downs, but she never gives up on herself.
She keeps fighting for healing, for growth.
For a life that feels real and fulfilling.
And that's something we can all learn from.
It is.
You know, whether we've experienced trauma or just feel lost and unsure.
Yeah.
Jennette's story reminds us that we are worthy of love, of healing, of creating a life that brings us joy.
So if you could go back and give young Jennette a piece of advice, what would you say?
Oh, gosh. I think I would tell her to trust her gut.
Yeah.
To believe in herself. And to know that it's okay to set boundaries.
Yeah.
To say no to things that don't feel right.
Yeah.
Even if it means disappointing other people.
That's great advice. And for anyone listening who's been touched by Jennette's story, who relates to her struggles and her triumphs, you're not alone.
Yeah. There's hope. There's healing.
And there's a way forward.
And if you haven't already, highly recommend reading I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Yeah, it's a raw and honest and ultimately hopeful story about one woman's journey towards healing and self-discovery.
It's a powerful book.
It really is.
It'll stay with you long after you finish it.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.